Okay, we've discussed well-being and we're going to look now at resilience. I've used the Ginsberg 7 C's, Dr. Ginsberg 7 C's of resilience, and we'll have a chat about them. Thinking about what resilience is really as our ability to deal with the ups and downs and bounce back. So let's have a look at this first one here. Dr. Ginsberg suggests the 7 C's, and the 7 C's talk about competence, so the feeling of knowing you can handle a situation effectively. Competence comes from a combination of the others, but certainly confidence, a child's belief or a young person's belief in their own abilities is derived from competence, the ability to do something. Same with your sports, playing young people. They become competent at it, they then become confident with it and for it and at it. Connection, the third one there, this can help prevent destructive paths by developing close ties and bonds with family and friends. And like I talked about earlier, this spike in dopamine in the adolescent brain. It's important that love is a part of that, love and belonging, and that young person knows there is a safe place, a safe haven, but they are allowed to expand and experiment in their own environment. Their character, they need to develop a strong set of values and morals, the right from wrong, and this is where that appropriate member of the family or members of the family or young person's life, grown-ups if you want to call them that, play a massive part in establishing or helping that young person establish that character. One of the big ones that I really think is important is this contribution. There was an old saying of children should be seen and not heard, and there's a time and a place for that, and that comes with understanding, right from wrong and understanding the ability to communicate. But contribution and knowing that the world is a better place with that young person in them, and that they have a voice. They have got their feet planted on the ground. They belong on that spot. That is their place on the world, and they need to contribute, and their contribution is important. So not disempowering young people by suggesting for a second that their contribution is valueless, because it quite often isn't. And even if it doesn't offer any real present value at that time, it's still a contribution, and it still forms part of the wider society and the impact of what they're doing. So that's a really important one for me. Coping is also really important. You've got to learn to cope with stress. We talked a little bit about the containers earlier on. There's no real sort of firm, fixed knowledge, certainly not that I'm aware of, where you can make your stress container bigger. But by understanding what coping mechanisms and what coping strategies work for your young person or for you can help to teach that young person how to manage those stresses and help overcome life's challenges. Nothing's perfect, things go wrong, and you've got to accept that. And then control. Ultimately, children who understand they can control the outcomes of decisions are more likely to bounce back, and this is the whole resilience model. The summary of that, as you can read there, is that people need to accept that the adult in their life who believes in them unconditionally. Children will live up or down, and that's the important thing, to expectations. Challenging yourself to help your children to negotiate their challenges, to be more resilient, capable and happy. So not taking away all of the risk and wrapping them in cotton wool. Some top tips then really is make connections, help them to make connections. Help them to help others, maintain a daily routine. This is an important one, more so now than ever, now that we're outside of our standard lives, normal routines. Having a break, teaching self-care and concrete skills. So concrete skills are things that just help the young person appreciate that not everything is exactly how it seems, but concrete skills are fixed. They're things like communicating, they're things like the routine, they're things like self-care. When we talk about young people and concrete thoughts, that's a young person, when you say, don't do that, you'll chop your finger off. They don't chop their finger off, so they then think that you're wrong and that they're right. That's a concrete skill, a concrete thought rather. Concrete skill is what we do want. We want those fixed skills in place. Moving towards goals, and nurture a positive self-view and manage their emotions. Just moving on, a few more there. Avoid catastrophizing. We're pretty good at this as adults. You sort of cross the road, bloody hell, you could have got one over and then that would have been it. You'd had your leg chopped off and oh God, what would have happened? That doesn't help because the young people don't recognise it like that. That's part of their risk taking and learning to deal with risk. Let people make mistakes and look for opportunities for self-discovery. You can't avoid all risk. Accept that change is part of living and don't accommodate every need. Teach problem solving and ask why questions as a useful technique. Why did that happen? Not why did you do that? What could we do to improve it? Why questions tend to just look in the past. We would rather look forward. Why did you do that? Rather than what could you have done to improve that? How can we stop that from happening again? Maybe a more positive way of looking at it. Very quick overview, and again, I'm conscious that we're doing this digitally and over video, so I can't really get embedded. I can't ask you questions, you can't ask me questions, and I'm very conscious that we lose interest very quickly if you haven't already. But just think about the well-being. There's lots of resources out there, and then we're going to move on as well to when should your young person or yourself seek to get some help.